good evening. Welcome to Movies for Dumb Guys. I'm your host, Joe Jeeper Creepers Johnson. And as usual, I'm joined by wretched Ryan Sharp.
I'm David Pumpkins.
And terrifying Tim Williams.
Feed.
On our previous podcast, we discussed our favorite Halloween movies of all time. So since Halloween's not quite here yet, we figured we'd continue the theme. And this time we're going to discuss our least favorite Halloween/horror movies of all time. Not necessarily the best or worst. Just, for me, it's mostly movies that were disappointing. Movies I went to the theater to see, and there was a kind of a level of anticipation and excitement, and then I wanted to walk out. There are movies that scarred me as a young person that I never should have seen, and one movie I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily a bad movie, but it just has one of the worst endings I've ever seen in a movie. Maybe the worst ending I've ever seen. So my movies aren't necessarily in order. I'm just going to throw a couple of titles out and we'll discuss them. Ryan, how did you prepare for today's list?
Well, I did a lot of YouTubing, a lot of Googling. I went on the line, and because there's a lot of movies that I've forgotten how much I hated.
I'm the same way.
And then I went back and listened to last week's podcast and jotted down some notes from that as well.
Tim, what are your thoughts on the worst horror movies? I mean, do you like seeing movies that are like intentionally bad, or what are your thoughts on bad horror movies?
Well, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, a lot of them that I don't think were meant to be intentionally bad turn out to be movies that I like. And I even have some on my list that are considered some of the worst horror movies of all time, and I can understand why, but I do own some of them.
Yeah.
Because they're just like so bad sometimes that it's like a train wreck or
Yeah.
But
I'm really glad you brought that up because I don't enjoy watching train wrecks or car accidents.
I don't either. I'm not
an
fan
ambulance
of
chaser.
bad movies. Probably the one except. I mean, we discussed The Room before on the podcast, but in the line of horror movies, one movie that really bad movie that I watched with my nephew years ago, and we actually found some entertainment in it was Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's widely regarded as one of the, if not the worst movie ever made. But there's this entertaining aspect to it because of the fact that it's so bad. Bad sets, bad acting.
Right.
There's an actor who plays a sheriff or a deputy, and as he's giving direction, he's waving a gun around, pointing it at people, and like he'd never handled a gun before. So some bad movies do have some redeeming characteristics, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you are a fan of The Room, sort of.
kind of, even though the last time I saw it, I was like, you know what? I don't need to ever see this movie again. It's bad. It's a bad movie.
Right. But that movie was not intentionally made to be bad.
Unless you ask him now. And
Well,
I meant to do that.
Well, right. But we all know the truth.
Now, some of the movies on my list, I know I'm going to get some flack from, especially you, Tim. I know some of these movies are going to be like, come on. Let me start off with one. This goes back to maybe the late 80s, early 90s. At a job that I used to have, a lot of those people became my good friends, best friends, and we would recommend music to each other and movies to each other. And I remember one time, my boss at the time, Mike, he said, "Oh, you got to see this horror movie. You like horror movies. You're going to love this." So I said, all right. Went home and watched The Toxic Avenger. And
Great cinematic tour de force there.
I came back to work angry. Like I wanted to file a grievance that my boss had harassed me or something. That's how much I hated this movie. I found it offensive. It came out in 1984. Now, again, this makes me even madder that it has a 70% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, because it is tongue in cheek.
I know.
It is not meant to
I know.
be
Ah,
serious.
I know, but like when the bad guys shoot a blind woman's dog and then proceed to defile her, it's like, how does anyone find any entertainment value in that at all? Even if it's meant to be a parody or whatever, I just found it horribly offensive. What do you?
I didn't really. Okay, honestly, I didn't see that movie until I was an adult,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I thought it was hilarious.
Wow. I
But
never
I
wanna see
but
it.
I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard people talk about it, and I'd seen parts of it, but I had never just sat down and watched it from beginning to end. And then somebody that knows my taste in movies lent it to me, and I did like it. Um, but I obviously I was old enough to realize that it is what it is. I mean that it was not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, and I guess I got that, but man, I just was offended by it. I tell you what, instead of me going down and doing like 5 movies, let's just kind of go around the table and
Wait,
rotate.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, you want to comment on Toxic Avenger? This sounds like I assume this is something you've never even seen and wasn't on your radar.
It's on my list.
Okay, let's hear your opinion.
I hated this movie. Thought it was
Thank you.
absolutely ridiculous. I'm not surprised at all that you like it though.
I'm not saying it's not ridiculous.
If I had to pick a movie on my list here that sucks, that Tim would like, it's probably going to be Toxic Avenger.
I do not own this movie, but I did.
Yet.
I did watch it,
Yet.
and I liked it. Well, you're right. If I see it in the $5 Walmart bin, I'll probably pick it up.
And just real quick, wanted to give a shout out to
I'm a
all of our
completist.
Facebook Live watchers. We appreciate you.
Hello.
Feel free to comment whether you agree or disagree with our choices today. All right, so Ryan, throw out a horror movie that you just hated for whatever reason.
Whoa, I thought this was like Halloween stuff. I didn't know it was
Yeah,
horror.
yeah,
Like, all right,
yeah.
you
Horror,
said
Halloween.
I mean, I just want
spooky.
to make sure we're on the same page.
We're
Mine-
good, we're
mine's
good.
Make
Yeah,
sure we're
yeah.
on the same sheet of music, people, and that's all. So number 1 on my list is gonna be Hocus Pocus. That's right, I said it. Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus. This movie is not funny to me. It's not good to me, and I know it's a classic, and you can buy the Halloween costumes, and people love it, and let's bring the family over, and the dog will watch it. I hate it. I think it's dumb. I don't like it. I don't like the acting in it. I don't like anything about it. Garbage. Flush it. Where's that toilet sound?
There we go. Lay down the sound effects. But.
Yeah, just hocused my pocus.
My comment on Hocus Pocus, if I have seen this movie, it probably was once on cable years ago. It didn't speak to me. It did nothing for me. I thought the characters were way too over the top. And it was just, for me, it was instantly forgettable. So it's not part of my movie-going experience. Tim?
I don't think I've ever watched it.
Okay.
I've seen parts of it because they always show it now,
Right.
and it's considered a Halloween classic for some reason. But I don't know, so I can't comment because I've never sat down and watched it.
I'd rather watch Toxic Avengers. Deb Shepard agrees with me, even though Debbie Greathouse does not.
Tim, what's at the top of your list?
Okay, my number 1 is, and let me say this: Robert De Niro was a good actor in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a Robert De Niro movie back then, you would pretty much know that it was going to be quality.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at some point in the early 2000s, say, maybe the late 90s, probably the early 2000s, he started taking shit roles.
He basically was doing an impression of himself. Wouldn't you agree? Like he's almost doing a parody of Robert De Niro.
I think he's just going through the motions.
Yeah.
I think that so anyway, my number 1 is a movie that came out in 2005 called Hide and Seek.
Okay.
Basically, I think him and he's got a young daughter, and he's like a psychologist or something, and the wife dies or they get divorced or something, and I think the wife dies. So he moves the daughter out into the country thinking that would be better for her. Well, the daughter has a imaginary friend named Charlie. Well, Charlie ends up competing somehow. This has 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, by
Oh,
the way,
yeah.
and I saw this at the theater. Charlie starts competing. I figured out what the twist was going to be. The studio actually went to these lengths to hide the twist, sent the ending of the movie in a different reel because to try to hide this great twist that Robert De Niro is Charlie at the end
Okay.
that you saw coming in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Horrible. And I don't remember. I think the girl might have been Dakota Fanning. So again, it was just one long scream from her pretty
Oh,
much the
geez.
whole movie,
That's her
yelling,
thing.
screaming Charlie.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Never saw it, Ryan. You ever see this one?
I don't recall it.
Okay.
You guys probably didn't. And I envy you because
Now-
you did not.
Since you brought up twists, I'm going to jump ahead on my list here a little bit. Let's talk about the legendary director M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. Now, his first major movie, at least that was on my radar, I don't know if it's his first movie, period, was Sixth Sense. I really enjoyed Sixth Sense. I was completely caught off guard by the twist ending. Really liked it a lot. Really enjoyed Unbreakable. Found that thoroughly entertaining. But then he started coming out with a string of movies that seemed to have been written with the twist first, and then the rest of the movie was kind of an afterthought. And the next couple of movies of his that I saw, I just freaking hated, and then I just lost all interest in anything with his name on it. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on this first one because it has a 74% positive on Rotten Tomatoes, but I freaking hated Signs. Hated Signs.
Swing away, Meryl. Meryl. Swing away.
Those twists. So the woman, she gets hit by a car or something, right? And once they basically say, oh, when we pull the car away from her, she's going to die. So Mel Gibson's character has his last words with her, and she says, swing away or whatever. And I'm like, the hell does that even mean? Where's that even coming from? And then later in the movie, there's the alien in the living room, and Mel Gibson's standing there, and all of a sudden it comes back to him. Oh, she told me to swing away. There's a baseball bat on the mantle. That's what she was trying to tell me. I call BS on that, man. That's garbage. That's lazy screenwriting. That's awful. And then he follows that up 2004. Signs came out in 2002. The Village came out in 2004. And again, I saw the twist coming from a mile away. Maybe within the first few minutes of the movie, I knew where this movie
Well,
was
I got
going.
you beat because I figured out the twist when I saw the trailer.
There you go. I hated those movies. Absolutely hated those movies. And those movies turned me off on M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong immediately. By the way, The Village has 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. And with The Village, there's an amazing cast. Bryce Dallas Howard, William Hurt, Joaquin Phoenix, Sigourney Weaver. How do you screw that up?
Okay, you might not like the twist, but it's still a well-constructed movie. I mean, the direction of it.
The Village or The Signs or
The
both?
The Village. I mean, the way that it's shot and the colors that they use. I don't know if you remember, but the way they use color in it. And there's still like some decent jump scares in it and setting it up.
And aliens.
But it is not a. But I mean, you're basing everything off the twist.
Yeah, I am, because I feel like in the creation process of a movie, you can't start by saying, hey, it'd be a cool twist, and then write a movie around it, create a movie around the
obviously
stupid
you can't.
twist. Well, he tried. He attempted.
He did.
And 43% of
He's
people might
he's-
agree with you, but
He's done a few of those.
Hey,
He actually did my number 2, which is the
that's Hall of Fame numbers. Just saying.
At the plate.
Yeah.
Help me
Hey.
out here, Ryan. What were your thoughts on Signs in the Village?
Well,
and
I know you're talking about his later work, but did you see the American Express commercial he did?
that I don't recall.
He was spot on there.
All right. Should have brought that up on their favorite Halloween things to watch.
Yeah. You can YouTube it. But make sure you watch Oracle first. Joe Johnson film.
Filmed by Joe Johnson.
When it came out, I was excited to see it.
Me too.
Signs, anyways.
I was, based on his
Yeah.
reputation.
Yep. I like you. Really enjoyed The Sixth Sense. What can I say about Signs? Mel Gibson's in it. It had some pretty designs in the cornfield.
Which the whole cornfield thing was, of course, debunked as a hoax across the planet. So now the whole premise is based on something we all know is a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
I
let
agree.
me throw this out too, because I saw somebody
away.
bring this up and I totally agreed.
Throw away.
Here's an alien advanced race that's able to travel from planet to planet, and they arrive to take over a planet that's 90% water,
It's
only
not,
to reveal that their water is their weakness.
okay. It is not the water. The daughter in the movie that is
Uh-huh.
talking about how the water is contaminated throughout the whole thing. That
Mhm.
is why. It's because the water is contaminated. It's the contaminants in the water that kill the aliens.
I
I
don't
got two
remember
things
that.
to say about that. Troy Pender says, "What's up, Tim?" By the way.
Hey, Troy.
There you go.
Troy.
So, all right, I just watched First Man this last weekend.
Okay.
Or First Man,
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know, when they stepped on the moon for the first time, they didn't know if it was gonna be something that would kill them. So maybe they came here not knowing, like thinking that everything's cool, just like when we went to the moon. But
Mm-hmm. Okay.
what if there was contaminated water on the moon? Like, so I
But
can't.
you're talking real life. I'm talking about
I
a
know,
fictional script
But I'm
here.
saying, if you go to a foreign planet, you don't know what you're going to encounter, right? I mean, things could go haywire on there. Like, oh crap, I ended up in the wrong part of town.
Yeah.
The family truckster, right? It happens. I'm not trying to stick up for this movie. They had, like you said, had some jump scares they're all right, and they did a good job of like creating little suspense here and there.
I
but-
like the premise of witnessing an alien invasion from like inside the home and through
Mhm.
your television
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I like that concept, that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, twists do not a movie make.
Okay, I liked Signs, but I'm not basing it off of the twist. I mean, that's really not even a twist. I mean, really, I know that that's
thing is
I
because
know
There's
that
a
that's
twist,
she
though,
says
like-
it earlier in the movie, and you're like, "What the hell is that all about?" And then it comes
Well-
into play later in the movie, and it's like,
well-
"How? Why? Is this an act of God? I don't know."
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could have explained it better, but
Yeah.
still. Okay, so I agree with you. Sixth Sense was good, even though I did figure out that twist in the beginning as well. And that's
You did?
I did,
Oh, good job.
Yeah,
And
I
I-
did not.
and
I'm
I-
glad I did.
and I mentioned
Yeah.
it to my ex-wife, and she hated me.
And that's why you guys got divorced.
Partially, that's probably why.
In the court documents, he ruined Sixth Sense. for
Because
you.
I said,
The judge was like, "Here, here."
well, I didn't know for sure, but I was like, he's gonna be dead. She's like, no. And then she's watching. She's like, if you ruin this for me, I'm gonna be so mad. Anyway, Unbreakable, I didn't see till it came out on DVD, and that's really not horror. Signs, I didn't mind. I saw that at the theater. I thought it was all right. I said what I had to say about The Village.
Mhm.
Uh,
And then he
Then-
did,
then he did Lady in the Water, right?
and-
Yeah,
and
there
I
was-
never
there was
saw
the
that one
big
because I
thing.
was I was
Okay,
turned off by
so
them.
that leads us to my number 2, which has an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is The Happening.
Oh, I saw that on a lot of worst movie lists. But again, like I was turned off by M. Night at this point, so I never even
Okay.
bothered with it.
Well, smart of you,
Yeah.
because it is awful. I mean, even the premise is that that the world gets overpopulated, and so the foliage on Earth releases
Ah.
toxins and starts killing off people.
Yeah.
But it is just awful. I mean, even the acting is bad in it, and it's Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a scene in there where you get to this certain point, and somebody is accusing him of somehow having something to do with it, and his reaction to it makes you think that he's going to have something to do with it. So you're like, oh, okay, well now it's getting somewhere, and it was just bad acting.
Yeah.
He's like,
The
just his
choice
reaction
by
to
the
it.
actor.
Yeah. I have to say, I think you said that you were not a fan of it, but I think Shyamalan has made somewhat of a comeback with The Visit and
I never saw The Visit.
Split.
I tried watching Split. I found myself fast forwarding through most of it. I had a hard time sticking with it. Now I am
Oh.
looking forward
Glass
to
looks
this.
awesome.
This Glass, which is a sequel to Unbreakable and I guess Split. Now that they've revealed that's part of that universe, so
Yeah.
I am looking forward to this. Will be the first M Night movie that I'll be looking forward to seeing since Unbreakable.
I liked Split. I did not like the trailer for Glass or whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like no. That's why I said it.
I don't think it's revealing a whole lot.
Well, I hope I'll go
think-
see it, but I was like, come on. But I like Split a lot actually.
Okay.
I did too.
I-
It was
I-
in my top 10.
I don't know why. I think I punched it up on pay-per-view, watched the first few minutes, found myself hitting fast forward, and next thing you know, the credits are rolling, and I'm like, okay.
Just like when you watch porn.
I only need the first few minutes, I guess.
I will say this: I liked that movie, and I had read. I don't think I knew that it was going to be linked up to Unbreakable. I almost jumped out of my seat when they showed that scene at
The
the
reveal at the end.
end. The only thing, but then after I thought about it, I was like, they could have made that a lot better. Like
Yeah.
when the beast ran out of the zoo or whatever. I wish they would have just had David Dunn like walking up, showing his feet or whatever, and having him like bump into the guy, and then
Yeah.
coming up and showing his face. It looks like they just tacked that on at the very end.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it did seem like an afterthought almost. Yeah.
But yeah, I almost jumped out of my seat, and I'm looking around. I don't think
No one
anybody
else
else
got it.
even knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how long had Unbreakable been out before that?
Oh, it's been years, like a decade or something, right?
Longer than that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, more than a
probably
decade.
like 15 years. Or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
right,
that's not horrible.
I also got Facebook Live says thank you for saying The Village. That was the only one on Jessica's list.
Oh, okay. All right, so enough on M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. Ryan, throw one out. You're at the plate.
My number 2 is going to be Practical Magic, starring Sandra Bullock.
Who brought that up last time?
Didn't Richie have that? Did you just pick Richie's top 10 favorite?
I
You're copying.
may or may not have copied somebody's list from last week.
You're going to have to refresh my memory on Practical Magic.
Me too. I don't
It's
even
a
know.
Sandra
no,
Bullock
but-
one. It
oh.
sucks. I mean, it's garbage, and it was Rich's pick. So that's my number 2.
All right, moving right along. All right, you throw out
I've
your
never seen
number
it.
2. Why don't you throw out your number 3?
Okay, my number 3 is okay. I think we can all agree that although Stephen King is a good writer, a lot of the adaptations of his movies stink. There's some that are good.
I think even
But-
Stephen King would agree with
Yeah,
that.
even the one that he directed himself, he says stinks. Yeah, I think he thinks that was like the worst one, Maximum Overdrive. But the reason that I put this one on here, it has a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. Came out in 1993. The reason I put it on here is because I read a lot of Stephen King when I was younger.
Me too.
This was one of my favorite books of his, Needful Things.
Okay.
And basically the premise of the book is to kill off everybody at Castle Rock. He, pretty much a lot of his books were set in the town of Castle Rock.
Which was in Maine or something.
Yeah.
But it's a fictional town, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, yeah.
But so the point of Needful Things is everybody in this town gets killed off in the book. They bring back Ace Merrill from he gets out of prison and shows up and ends up being like the main guy who turns out to be the devil. He's doing his bidding for him. Ace Merrill was Kiefer Sutherland's character in Stand By Me.
Okay.
Doesn't show up, has nothing to do with in the movie at all. That part doesn't even take place. I think maybe 2 people die in the movie, and it maybe a dog. But
Not the dog.
it was funny because I saw it with 2 of my friends who had read the book, one of them who hadn't read the book, and the whole time we're sitting there looking at each other like, what? And then the one guy that hadn't read it, he's like trying to enjoy the movie. He's getting pissed off. He's like, no, that's cool. But yeah, just and I believe Ed Harris played Alan Pangborn in this one, the sheriff. But yeah, just horrible. I mean, rarely do movies actually piss me off.
Yeah.
But this one definitely did.
Ryan, did you see Needful Things?
I really don't remember seeing it.
You-
I mean,
you
it
me
seems
neither.
very familiar
You probably
to me.
you probably wouldn't. It is not memorable. Even if you didn't know about the book and saw the movie, there's nothing memorable to it.
But it seems really familiar to me. But I don't recall seeing it. You said it was Stephen King?
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the
Mhm.
topic of Stephen King, let's talk about his best and worst movies. Like you said, most of the film
We did a whole
adaptations.
show about that.
No, we
on
didn't. We
not on
talked about
Stephen
doing
King.
that.
Yeah,
but we
not
didn't do
Stephen
it.
King.
Oh, not Stephen King.
Right. So I would say that Stephen King's best movie adaptations, Misery would be right up there near the top as far as horror movies. I'm not talking about like Shawshank Redemption or anything. But Misery's up there near the top.
Carrie.
Carrie's definitely up there. I personally love Christine, even though I've seen people criticize Christine.
Christine's not a bad movie.
I think it's a classic. I love it. Stephen King movies that I hated. Pet Cemetery. Now, I read Pet Cemetery. Absolutely love the book because you're creating these scenarios in your brain, and your brain's like making the most of it. But then when you go see the movie, they got this child actor, playing this undead version of their kid, and he's
Now-
so terrible at it.
He's a kid.
No, I know, and that's the problem. You got a child actor in a movie trying to convey this
Right.
image that I had in my head, and he's not pulling it off. And I'm not
Right.
blaming the actor. I'm just saying
Oh, no, I
some
know.
things are
I
best
agree.
left on the written page.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I did not like Pet Cemetery. What are some of your best and worst Stephen King movies, Ryan?
I actually liked Pet Cemetery, but
Did
I
you?
was younger, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Stephen King guy, actually. Like, I know he, has a following and is considered a master or whatever, but it's not my style.
Now, he
And-
wrote
and then-
It, right?
Yeah.
It. Now, they did the TV adaptation first, with 2-part miniseries. I remember liking the first half quite a bit, not liking the second half when they were all adults.
Yep.
And then they did the movie, which came out when 2017, 2016. 2017. And I saw it in the theater after all the hubbub. Like it was a phenomenon in the theaters.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go check this out. And there were elements I liked, but overall, I thought the movie was overrated. Like I thought it was just okay. Did you guys see the new It?
I have not seen it yet. No.
No.
I wasn't. I was not a fan. I never read the book. I was not a fan of the TV series or the miniseries.
Right.
That big spider thing at the end.
Yeah, in
was
hindsight,
stupid
the
and-
production values on that are really
Yeah,
bad.
I probably will check out the new It at some point, but it was just I don't know. It wasn't anything that I was really
I
interested
feel like I
in
don't
checking out.
have to with all the
Merchandising,
yeah.
everything.
merchandising,
And the way
merchandising,
everybody's talked about it, I think I already know.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they add to it.
and the
to make
parodies
it-
and stuff.
Yeah. Now, Tim Curry is Pennywise. I mean, he knocked it out of the park, and he made that role sort of iconic. But yeah, not my favorite Stephen King adaptations. Any other Stephen King movies you want to throw out that just failed at the box office, in your opinion?
I mean, nothing that I can really think of right now. I mean, Maximum Overdrive I mentioned because I believe that's the only movie that he actually directed himself. It wasn't based on any of his
Again, I
books.
like that too, and I don't know if it's because I was a kid.
Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Machines
I
come
just
to
I don't
life.
really remember a whole lot of it,
Emilio.
but I know that he says it was horrible himself. Cujo wasn't really the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay, I guess.
Classic D. Wallace Stone movie.
And I
Trapped
know.
in a car.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm not a fan of The Shining. I'm not
Me neither.
I'm not a fan of Kubrick's
I'm glad.
Shining.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not a fan of The Shining. I don't think it's scary at all.
No.
I know it's more of a psychological thriller sort of a thing, but not a fan. And I'm glad you
Yeah.
said it because that was kind of a dirty secret of mine. Like I kept that to myself that I'm not a fan of The Shining.
They don't shave in it.
Now, I showed you this movie, and I know you're not a fan of it, but it came out a few years ago, and it's a pretty faithful adaptation of the book, The Mist. Frank Darabont did it, and I really like it, actually.
Now clear something up for me. I'm glad you brought up The Mist because that was actually on my list to discuss.
Okay.
The Fog and The Mist, both written by Stephen King, right? Or did Stephen King
I don't
write The
think
Fog?
The Fog was written by
No?
Stephen King, no.
So The Fog was a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
The Mist is a Stephen King.
It's totally different. The Fog was like a pirate ship.
Yeah.
Guys, the Mist was opening into a whole nother
Yeah.
Lovecraftian world.
I always wondered if there was a connection there.
John Carpenter also wrote it.
wrote The Fog.
The Fog.
Okay. Because I've seen both movies, and I think I went into The Mist kind of, pouting with my arms crossed, going, I liked the better one. It was called The Fog. But then I it has something to do with interdimensional creatures and all that stuff. Now let me clarify by saying I didn't hate The Mist, but that's the movie that I brought up earlier. I think it's one of the worst endings I've ever seen in a film. Like, I was angry at the ending of the film.
I do not like that ending either, and that is not how the story ended. Frank Darabont, I'm sorry, but this is what it was. Frank Darabont is a big liberal who is like anti-gun, and he put that in there just for that reason.
That makes sense. Now, Frank Darabont, he's the guy that was responsible for making The Walking Dead such a huge success on television, and then he kind of got ousted from that, right? And as a matter of fact, there's a Walking Dead connection in that Melissa McBride has an appearance in The Mist. She plays a character.
Not only her, there's the guy that was Dale. He was in it also.
Okay.
I think there's a few of them. I think there's a few people that ended up showing up like that first season.
Interesting.
Man, going through this list, he made a lot of crap movies.
Who did?
Stephen King.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
there's
God.
a lot of
but he doesn't,
garbage based on his work.
But I
But
mean,
the books are always
he doesn't
better.
really have a choice. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
but like
they-
Lawnmower Man, that was crap.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Although Thinner, I like Thinner. I thought that was.
Thinner was not bad, and that was pretty close to the book.
Yeah.
I will say this, Darabont. I think that was the only horror adaptation of King that he did, but he also did The Green Mile, that was exactly like the books.
Yeah, and that was fantastic.
And Shawshank Redemption, which was exactly like the story
Right.
in the books for
But
seasons.
I'm also mad at him because he endorsed Clive Barker, and then Clive Barker came out with Rawhead Rex. And it's
I'm not a fan of
Right.
Clive Barker at all.
he
It's just
said
like,
he was like the next, he endorsed him as the next
there,
big.
there
thing.
was a lot of people were at the time, and he just I'm not a fan of any of his stuff. I mean, just because he just throws it right out there, it's like no, I don't know. There's no subtlety to Clive Barker's stuff.
Right. One final note on The Mist. I co-starred with Thomas Jane
I was gonna bring that up for you.
in
Hey.
61.
I know Thomas Jane too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I acted with him.
yeah. We were chatting it up, me and Thomas, and then he disappeared with one of the extras. She was how do you say she did a lot of dancing.
Rich, you
in
may
her-
recall this. You were
yeah,
there.
I remember.
My toe.
He got us off. Did. You saw him in Hung, right?
All right, where are we? All right, so we did our little Stephen King rundown. Let me bring up a movie. I'm curious to get your guys' opinion on this. Again, here's a movie that I saw after all the hype. And when you go in and you see a movie after all the hype, there's no way it can live up to the hype. And so I remember I was in California for a vacation, and the group said, let's go see a movie. Like, you're going to be in California, you're going to go see a stupid movie. So we go in, and we see this movie called Blair Witch Project, 1999. Budget of $60,000, which makes me wonder what the hell they spent that money on. Gross $250 million worldwide.
Sticks were really expensive.
It was shot on video and film, I think. There was it kind of interchanged between video and film, I think. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a sign of the apocalypse. And then, of course, it generated a sequel, which I never got around to seeing, that it has 14% positive on Rotten Tomatoes. I freaking hated Blair Witch Project. We just had a film festival at ONTV, and we have students submit films that they shoot in 4 days for our film festival. And the majority of those films were like Hitchcock or Scorsese compared to Blair Witch. I remember watching Blair Witch thinking, this looks like it was done by a couple of public access users. One had a video camera.
Hey,
and
we made some quality work, sir.
Yeah, it made our stuff look great. I will never understand how this movie became a hit. I don't understand what people saw in it. I didn't think it was scary at all. I freaking hated Blair Witch Project.
Did you say I only half listen to anything you ever say. So.
You're on
Did
your
you say
phone
that?
talking to your followers.
Did you say that you watched it in the theater? Or
Yes, in a theater.
You saw it in the
I
theater.
saw it in a theater with a crowd, and the crowd was angry. They wanted to revolt afterward. The credits were rolling. They were like, "That was it." Reminded me of my love life.
Did you see it with the Bill Knapp's crowd at like noon or something? Because
No.
I went at night on a Friday night, and everybody was like freaking out. And I guess maybe it's the state of mind you go in, because I can go into a haunted house and allow myself to be scared, or I can be like, I know there's a dude about to jump out to me. I'm gonna sock him in his face, right? So maybe it's the mindset that you go into it. I thought they did a great job of making it scary without making it a thing, like Alfred Hitchcock was able to do in all his movies, like that element of.
Do not compare this
Alfred
movie to
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock. You son of a bitch.
I just did. I think they did a good job of making you scared of what you don't know and what you can't see, and then maybe the end
someone
was
outside of the tent banging on the tent. Eh?
But go camping and let somebody do that to you, and let's see if you don't poop yourself.
Whatever.
It was
Sam, what are
a,
your
it was
thoughts
a
on
1-2
Blair Witch?
punch there. It wasn't just people beating on the side of the tent. It was when they opened the tent, there was a bundle of sticks there. That's what was supposed to terrify you. Okay, I didn't see this. I did not see
Kindling.
this. I didn't see this until it came out on DVD. And
That was good.
now when you saw it, had the directors already been doing the talk show circuit? Because this is what.
Well, like I said, I saw it after the hype.
Okay.
So I didn't,
So
I didn't buy in any of
so
this
this-
found footage bull.
Okay, but a lot of people
Wow.
did because that was their original marketing tool.
Well, and I give them
they
props
they
for that.
put
I
it
give
out
them
there
credit for the
as
marketing
a
that led up to this
legitimate
film.
as a legitimate documentary.
Right.
I could see if people were watching the movie as that they would be scared that happened.
Yeah. So,
I think most people would have probably caught on that it wasn't, that it wasn't legit, partly through the movie. But anyway, so I didn't see it until after all the hype had died down, and after the producers and directors were on, or the directors were on like all the talk shows and talking about it, and the actors and everything. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think I have it as an honorable mention, but I don't think it's one of the worst movies ever. Really, it's. I mean, it is what it is. I understand what they were trying to do.
I'll say that I saw it, like when I saw it, I knew it wasn't actual found. Like I knew,
right.
So it was after that, but the hype was still it was going strong. So I think I saw maybe it was the first week actually. So
I have to admit, there's one
know.
moment in that film that keeps me up at night. It haunts my memories. And I can't think of the actress's name, the lead actress, but her snot
The
bubble is
snot
something
bubbles.
I can't get
That's-
out of my head.
that was great
So-
acting.
That-
And all the parodies that Rich did a parody, and I can't get that out of my head. Tried to run across M24, and we wish he would have not made it, but he did.
All right. I need my blood pressure to go down, so I'm going to throw it over to you, Ryan. I need to do
All right.
some yoga or something over here.
Hot
Meditation.
yoga. So number 3 on my list is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
All
Now,
right.
this one, I know I'm doing Rich's list here, but I actually agree with this one because I think it was really overhyped. You don't know when to watch it. Do you watch it in October? Do you watch it in November and split the difference? Do you watch it in December as a Christmas movie, Halloween movie? I know when it came out, it was like supposed to be this cool, like, oh yeah, it's cool, cool effects and whatever.
Mhm.
I just don't like it. Like, I don't find it entertaining. I don't like the style.
I think it appeals to the goth kids. You know what I mean? The dark.
I mean,
dark kids,
yeah,
I guess.
maybe more so than others, but I know people of all cliques that love it, and they love Jack Skellington, and it's their thing, and it's their go-to Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Not happening in my house.
Yeah, I remember the first time I popped it in around Halloween to watch this, and I was confused. I'm like, oh, is this a Christmas movie? It doesn't have an identity. It doesn't know what it is, and that bothers me. And I may have watched it once or twice, and I have no desire to ever see it again. Tim?
I'm a big claymation fan, and not a whole lot of movies were coming out around that time. It was kind of like a old school way
Yeah.
of doing things. Like I said last time, I actually saw it at the theater, but it that is also another movie that pissed me off while I was watching it because the trailers, the commercials, they never let on that it was going to be a musical, that they were going to sing to the whole freaking thing.
They suckered you in.
And yeah, so, a lot of people think that I'm like a big Tim Burton fan. I'm really not. I mean, there's like a couple movies that I like that he did. But I think I mentioned this last time too. I think he does weird things just for the sake of being weird sometimes in the movie, and it doesn't add anything to the movies that he does. But yeah, I agree. It did not make my list, but I definitely am not a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Thank you. All right. Throw one out, Tim.
I'm betting that neither of you guys have ever seen this, but this guy is probably one of the worst directors of all time. For real. And it is Uwe Boll's House of the Dead that came out in 2003. His MO seemed to be House of the Dead was a zombie video game where you just shot zombies. And I played it a couple times. So I thought, okay, maybe this will be good when it comes out. It was just ridiculously awful. And he just has continued to make awful movie after awful movie. I think what he was doing was he was buying the rights to these video games. I think thinking just because they were video games, they'd have a built-in audience. Blood Rain is another one. Alone in the Dark is another one. He is just. This has 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Wow.
He is just one of the most god awful directors ever. And I mean, I quit watching his movies after. I mean, these were like kind of like a morbid curiosity thing too. After this one, then like I don't know what came out after, but I think I watched a couple more of them just to see. And yeah, he doesn't get it.
You lost me at video game. Not only have I not seen a video game movie I've liked, I don't think I've seen a video game movie trailer that I've liked. Usually when
No,
I
I
see
agree.
the trailer, I'm like, that looks like garbage. Now, there's probably one video game property that I might buy a ticket to see, and if they ever did a movie version of Red Dead Redemption, I'd probably be there to see it. But if you tell me that there's a movie based on a video game, I will pass.
So I pretty much agree with you there. The only thing that trumped it was zombies, and I'm not a big gamer, but I had actually played that game at like Steve and Barry's or whatever, or Dave and Buster's, whatever. So I was like, hey, you can't really screw up a zombie movie too bad, but Uwe Boll proved me wrong.
All right.
I'm
Ryan,
just waiting for him to come out with Tecmo Bowl. I'll watch that.
the movie.
Mm-hmm. Hut.
In a world where Barry Sanders runs rampant.
Bumble.
Ryan, you got another one to throw out?
I sure do.
Let's hear it.
Number 4 on my list, and this one you guys are going to disagree with, but going right along with the whole thing. Sleepy Hollow.
What?
What?
Oh.
Yes. The garbage. Go ahead, play your little clip. Go ahead. I'll wait.
Let me find a good one here.
A good host would have this stuff ready already. Sleepy
going.
Hollow.
Keep
Give me a
going.
break. It's garbage.
Really? I love the whole Headless Horseman legend, and I thought they did a nice twist on the Headless
Look,
Horseman legend. Really enjoyed it.
All I need is the cartoon version, and that's scary
That's
enough.
pretty damn great.
That one's
The
good.
Disney version.
But going with same thing. I'm not a big Tim Burton guy, and it seems like him and Johnny Depp just keep like every movie they make together gets worse. And it's bad.
What an idiot.
Tim, did you like Sleepy Hollow?
I liked it okay. I liked the
Exactly.
first part of it. But yeah,
Those are called the previews.
But and I think I did buy it, or somebody bought it. It might have been It might have been my ex. But anyway, it's been in my house, and I've never felt the need to rewatch it. I will say that. I liked, like I said last time, I was laughing at the decapitations, and everybody else was like appalled in the theater. But yeah, I think it just got to be a little much. I don't think you needed to tweak the story of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow really
Yeah.
at all.
I mean, given a choice, yeah, I'm going to go back and watch the Disney version. The Disney version is near perfect. And I'm in
Don't need
love
this.
with Katrina Van Tassel.
With a girl.
All right, I'm going to throw out another movie that has fairly high positive percentage on Rotten Tomatoes, 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe I'm in the minority here. Let me play a little clip here.
Hi, I'm Chucky.
He's something, isn't he? He came alive in my hand.
Oh, for God's sake.
Why won't you believe me?
Because I'm sane, Mrs. Barkley. Sane and rational.
Why do I think this movie is terrible? Because I'm sane. Because I'm sane and rational. I saw Child's Play in the theater, went in with high hopes. I was optimistic.
What year did this come out?
This came out in 1988.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I found myself laughing at the movie throughout the whole thing to the point where I think other people are looking at me like, what is wrong with this guy? It was horrific. It was so bad. The concept of a serial killer occupying a doll and terrorizing a family. Oh my God. I wanted to walk out of this movie. Like Mr. Howell once said on Gilligan's Island, I would have walked out of this movie on an airplane. I hated this movie. Ryan, your thoughts?
When I watched this movie, I kept getting it confused with Problem Child, starring John Ritter.
Another awful movie.
I thought it was basically the same movie. It was just this little bastard kid, this little ginger bastard that I don't give a crap about. No, it's not a good movie.
Oh my God.
The sequels aren't good either.
And you guys are going to think I hate kids in movies or something, but I don't. But God, I just hated this
And then
movie.
they came back and they make another
Oh,
the Bride of
Chucky and all
Bride
that
of
stuff.
Chucky is good.
And I see the merchandise in the stores, and I'm like, why?
Bride of Chucky is
Terrible
good
movie.
because they finally embraced the concept that they're not going to make it scary. John Ritter is in that movie too. Is in Bride of Chucky.
John Ritter is?
Yes.
Problem Child 2.
Yeah.
Or the
3, 'cause I think
Universal
they actually made 2.
connection.
But yeah, I mean, I was a little bit older when that came out. I don't remember if I saw it at the theater or not. It was what it was. I wasn't crazy about it. For some reason, and I don't know if I rented Bride of Chucky or just bought it sight unseen. I'm kind of a big Jennifer Tilly fan, old school, back in the day. So I liked her in it, and I mean I do like Bride of Chucky, but I can't say that I really care about any of the other ones.
Yeah.
No. But I did enjoy Chucky's cameo in earlier this year's movie Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll agree
That
with
was
that.
cool.
That was a nice little Easter egg. All right, we're kind of jumping all over here. So, Tim, let's throw it to you. Throw out your next title.
Okay, I originally had this, and I had forgot that I'd even seen this movie. I don't remember anything about it. But here's another Robert De Niro slumming it movie called Godsend, and I'd totally forgot that I'd even seen this at the theater. I barely even remember anything about it, but I saw it on a lot of other people's worst of lists, and that kind of brought back the memory. I think I might have repressed it. This came out in 2004, a year before Hide and Seek. It's I think a family, and it's got good actors in it. Rebecca Romaine Stamos and Greg Kinnear.
That's what's
And-
frustrating is when a director has a great cast to work with and somehow they botch it.
Yeah, and I mean I barely remember what it was, but I think they had a kid that died, and he came to Robert De Niro was some doctor that came to him and said that he could resurrect him, but they had to move away, and then whatever. But it was just very forgettable.
Never saw it.
Very
Never heard of it. Brian.
I really don't have much to add.
Then throw out a title, will ya?
So just to round this off real quick, all the Universal monster movies, which Rich is number 5. So I'll put those out there. That's my top 5. Rich's top 5 of best movies, my top 5 of the worst movies. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Getting into some real things that I disliked. This one's not very popular. Nobody agrees with my opinion on this. and that's Hostel. A lot of people really enjoyed the Hostel movies.
No, I agree with you.
Never saw them.
I thought
I don't like them either.
Yeah, I thought they were movies trying to be gory or like.
Well,
like,
I believe that's where the term torture porn came from,
sure.
and that was like one of the first ones that I
Yeah.
think.
Now,
I
did
think
Saw
coined
come
that.
before or after Hostel?
Before.
So Saw kind
Pretty
of kicked off that genre,
Pretty positive
right?
that came before. But Saw didn't have like the porn aspect of it. It was more like you got to cut your hand off, or you're gonna, you cut this guy's hand off to get the key or whatever. But
Right, yeah. I mean, that was like Saw had set up stuff to where you either have to do this or do that. I mean, the concept of Saw was actually way better than Hostel.
I agree.
Right.
But
I steer clear of those movies. I can't watch them.
Yeah, I found it very not very entertaining, very underwhelming, and not very well written, and it
Okay.
had some nice boobs, but
yeah. So the reason that Hostel got made was apparently, and I must have missed this, the early days of the internet. There was advertisements for. I don't even know where anybody would have saw this at, but apparently, who's the guy? Eli Roth and whoever else was involved in this movie. They would see these ads online, and it said that you could like pay all this money to go to another country and actually like kill somebody or something. So that's where the whole concept of this came from. Where, but yeah, I remember like watching it and just thinking, I'm not a fan of these either.
Yeah.
But
all right, I want to play a clip from a movie that I saw in the theater in 1982. I was 16 years old. Hands down, one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
What's in the basket? Easter eggs?
What's in the basket?
Clothes. What's in the basket?
Nothing. What's in the basket?
My brother.
Have you guys ever heard of a movie called Basket Case?
I own it.
Here's the premise. Apparently, it's revealed at some point in the movie that the thing that is in the basket was a Siamese twin that was attached to the guy in the movie that had gotten surgically removed and somehow survived, even though it was partially human. And the brother carries his Siamese twin brother around in this basket, and apparently they're getting revenge on the doctors that performed the procedure and anyone else who crossed their paths. Such an awful concept, an awful movie. 74% positive on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's why the nation is in the situation that it's in today. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Ryan, have you ever heard of Basket Case?
I have not seen it. I have heard of it, absolutely.
God.
And because this movie is so bad, I want to take a quick second to say Jimmy says Maximum Overdrive, worst but best soundtrack. So,
all right.
It's kind of, I'll give that a half vote because I like the movie.
I could see that. AC/DC, right? and that movie was, or that song, Who Made Who, was created just for that movie, I believe. Was it really? I believe so. Okay.
The more you know.
I will say this: I bought Basket Case sight unseen in the last so many years because it had such a high rating, and I don't think I've ever gotten through the whole thing.
Don't bother. It's bad.
Save some time.
Okay, but when you mentioned what the concept of this movie is, I'm wondering if one of my favorite episodes of the X-Files was inspired by this humbug. You remember that?
I vaguely remember what you're talking about. Yeah,
where the guy had like a Siamese twin, like underdeveloped, but he was leaving the guy's body at night and killing people.
I'm sure that was an homage or something.
It had to be. Jim Rose traveling sideshow circus was in that movie too.
Now, I want to throw something out.
In that episode.
We got about 5 minutes left. I want to throw this out as a topic of conversation here. So, everyone's familiar with the Halloween movies, Michael Myers, all that stuff. First one, absolute classic. I think I mentioned on our last podcast, I really enjoyed H2O, and we have a brand new Halloween movie coming out soon with Jamie Lee Curtis. Looking at the list of worst horror movies ever made, some people I forget what number it was, Return of Michael Myers or something. Some people say that one was just awful, Curse of Michael Myers, something. But the one that jumped out at me is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which does not feature Michael Myers. And I don't know if it has any tie to the Halloween universe. The basic premise is a company called, what is it, Silver Shamrock, wants to sell Halloween masks to kids, which will then control them or kill them or something. Let me play a quick clip here.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
I vaguely remember this movie coming out. I remember like watching it and going, where's Michael Myers? What the hell is this? Being completely lost, completely confused, and never watching it again. And being reminded only later that this was even a thing. Ryan, you have any recollection of Halloween 3 at all?
Real quick, what is the new one coming out called?
Halloween, I think.
I think it's just called Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween 2018.
Halloween Golden Girls. Like, Jamie Lee looks like Dorothy. She'd be Arthur up in this piece.
I think this is called Halloween Activia.
Right, there you go. Right, Shady Acres. It's awful. I didn't like any of the Halloween movies.
Even the first one?
Even the first one.
Is it just because the slasher aspect's not your thing, or?
It may be, and of course, again, I was really young, so it just didn't appeal to me. It didn't scare me. I didn't. I can do the music, but that didn't even scare me. It's just like.
Right now, buckle up. Tim's going to defend Halloween 3.
I'm ready.
Okay, let me clue you in on a little bit of history.
Okay.
The original concept for the Halloween movies, it was going to be an anthology series. After the first movie, Michael was going to be done. There was going to be a movie that came out that had nothing to do with Michael Myers every year after that, but it had to do with Halloween. The studio, because of the success of the original, and the other original is a classic, I'm not denying that at all.
Mm-hmm.
They demanded that they make part 2 with Michael Myers. Okay, so they get that out of the way. Then they were going to get to back to the original concept. That is what happened, but people obviously didn't know that. So there was like a huge revolt against it. The fans hated it because Michael Myers wasn't in it, and I guess they didn't catch that from the trailers. But anyway, if you take that whole thing out of it, if you're not expecting Michael Myers to be in it, it's actually one of my favorite Halloween movies. And I was telling you before, it's actually the number 3rd highest rated out of all the Halloween movies. Maybe if they would have called it something else, people wouldn't have such a hatred for it. The funny thing is, I mean, you and I were talking about it earlier. The great thing about that movie is that Tom Atkins was like some like they always made him like some macho like leading man that would get the women, and that I'm sure that wouldn't fly today. I mean, he was like a overweight, like, you know, not what you would like consider a supermodel type of guy.
Yeah.
And I believe Jamie Lee Curtis has a cameo in this movie.
All right.
But
well, we got about a minute left. I want to throw out a couple other quick titles. Interview with a Vampire. Frickin' hated it. Went in hoping to see some like cool, modern, scary vampire movie. Frickin' hated it. Hollow Man came out in 2000. What should have been an exciting and fun story of the Invisible Man, which had really great effects, starred Kevin Bacon. So promising. Oh, I went in so optimistic, and it turned out to be just a terrible, terrible movie where Kevin Bacon's character just turned out to like rape women and be just like a serial killer or something. And it was totally uninspired take on the Invisible Man tale. Ryan, quick title.
Ginger Dead Man. It's where someone gets killed, and so the mom, they put his ashes into some bakery, and then he bakes into
Gary Busey's in that movie.
Gary Busey is
the first
Ginger
like 5
Dead
minutes.
Man. Yep.
Tim, you got one? Last one to throw out?
Don't Go Into the Woods, Night of the Lepus, Troll 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, and Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf.
about 9 lives with Paris Hilton. Enough said.
All right, that'll wrap up this edition of Movies for Dumb Guys. Happy Halloween. We'll see you later.